Joining us right now from Edmonton, Alberta, no stranger to the Canadian soccer scene in FC Edmonton, of course, is Steve Sandor. Steve, welcome, my friend.
Hi, how are you doing?
Very good, my friend. Exciting times in Canada, exciting days ahead, and today was an unbelievable day in the province of Alberta, an unbelievable day for FC Edmonton. Shamit Shome, I hope I said it correctly, of FC Edmonton signs a 2017 Generation Adidas contract. Talk about it. What do you think about this day in FC Edmonton's history? What type of player is this young man?
Well, Shamit Shome, and that's the pronunciation. You're going to get used to it because he's going to go really high in the draft. Shamit Shome was a guy, this is very unusual. For a Canadian player to get a Generation Adidas contract who was already a professional, which I believe is the first time that's ever happened in Generation Adidas history, that a player who has an existing professional contract gets a transfer fee for his club that he has to be bought and then signed to GA is unheard of. That shows exactly how high MLS ranks him, how high the scouts rank him. I think, we talk a lot about Alphonso Davies as probably in Vancouver. It was another Edmonton kid, by the way, as maybe the top under 20 prospect in the country. But Shamit, if Alfonso's there, then Shamit, who's eligible to play for Canada right now and has captained the under 20 team, would be right there as 1A. A kid that played 26 NASL starts as an 18-year-old while still going to the University of Alberta and studying engineering. Just an incredible story, and a kid who we weren't really expecting to graduate from the academy at FC Edmonton and get a lot of playing time, but he took the opportunity, and Coach Colin Miller and the assistant coach Jeff Paulitz, who runs the academy, just couldn't keep him out of the lineup. His soccer IQ is what strikes you. He thinks the game at a level much older than his age. Is a really good, he's going to be a guy who's really going to pull strings really well for a club in the future.
Well done to Jeff Paulitz, like you said, and Colin Miller. Outstanding work by these two guys. I don't know if you had a chance to listen to the interview just before with Travis Clark of TopDrawerSoccer.com. He didn't say that this is a slam dunk or 100% done, but he just about shocked me and all our listeners and our viewers that he thinks that Shamit Shome could possibly go number one. That shocked me. You?
No, not at all. I've been talking to some, because this is like a bomb that's been thrown into the draft, because even as I spoke with Shamit earlier today, 2 days ago this wasn't happening. This has come together exceptionally quickly. So no one was expecting Shamit Shome to be available in the MLS draft. And so now everyone's mock draft is torn up because of his availability. And the interesting thing is Minnesota United is a team that's seen him a lot.
And that's exactly what Travis said.
Against him in NASL. And we'll see if maybe they change some mind. They change their minds as a player that they know what he can do, because as an NASL team last year, they saw him play.
Steve, that's exactly what Travis said. Minnesota, NASL, the connection there, it wouldn't surprise him.
No, and I think, again, as I said, it's the rarity of this deal that a player who is a professional with FC Edmonton was signed to a GA deal. And, for MLS to pay an NASL team while NASL is struggling to survive right now, but still, we know the hostility that's existed between the leagues in the past, and hopefully this is a real good sign that, we've entered a new era in cooperation. For FC Edmonton to get what I was told is a very good transfer fee, and that's what the club needs. And for a lower division club to thrive, it can't just do it on bums and seats. It has to do it by moving players ahead, moving players on, moving players to Europe, moving players to MLS. This is where it's at. FC Edmonton 4 years ago was very close to sending Sean Seiko to Montreal Impact. That deal fell apart the last second. They had their struggles trying to get transfer fees for Hanson Boakai, who unfortunately looks to have flamed out his career right now, and that he's looking for the club, and there was a lot said about that last year, and I think this has shown that FC Edmonton, a local player who got every opportunity. And FC Edmonton has not tried to hold him back and has said, no, go ahead, try to move up a level, and everything is above board. No griping about transfer fees. This is how it should happen all the time, and hopefully this will be the new normal for Canadian clubs in dealing with MLS.
And this is fantastic to hear. Today was a special day for A&B Academy, for FC Edmonton, for Canada, for young Canadian kids. Steve, before we let you go, let's talk about the NASL. We still haven't heard very much from anyone out there, but I think it was you or someone out there tweeting or writing something on a possible 20-team NASL relaunching again this year in 2017 or maybe by 2018. I honestly, I think that's a little far-fetched. Maybe I'm crazy for saying it, but
I think there's some context needed. That was Peter Wilt talking to me about how optimistic he is that once NASL cleans itself up in the next week or so, that there will be a lot of investors interested, and that this new league that lives within its means and doesn't have the team spending, more than MLS on players, as we had a couple of teams last year, especially Miami FC, who are paying $500,000 to bring guys into the team and spending millions of dollars in the transfer windows to bring guys in. And basically, guys saying that, wow, it's actually nicer to play in Miami than any MLS team because they're paying us so well and they're treating us so well. I mean, that's great that they're treated that well, but they weren't living within their means as a second division club. So now that NASL is trying to clean itself up, and I think now trying to be less adversarial, if they can put this together, and everything I hear is quite positive. I hear a lot that I was hesitant when a lot of this was breaking that, the sky is falling. FC Edmonton's been quite confident the league was always going to happen, and people were sort of laughing at them in December saying, well, why are they so confident? Ticket sales have already set a new record this year at FC Edmonton in the off-season. People here aren't talking about it very much in terms of the league troubles. There's a lot of confidence the league's going to go forward. There are definitely issues and problems that need to be resolved, but I think some of that is they're talking about right now and how to go forward and have a solid business plan. Now, I think, Peter Wilt, a lot of people, I think, read the headline of my story, didn't, notice the clause in it, and were like, 20-team NASL. Peter Wilt does not run the league. He's a consultant for 4 or 5 of the clubs that want to be in the league. A guy that, just finished behind Kevin Payne for the TFC job as president, and a guy that, was the president of Chicago Fire and president of Indy 11. So a guy who's really well established in the American soccer community, really feels strongly about NASL's future. That's one man's opinion, and I reported one man's opinion of it, who's in those talks and is in the room.
Let me ask you.
Edmonton's owner has been quite tight-lipped about it because he doesn't want to spoil anything that some progress that I think that they feel they're making.
Yeah, I got to give it to Tom Fath. I've always said this to you. I give the guy a ton of credit. He's taken out his hard-earned money and spent millions upon millions on this franchise in the city of Edmonton that he loves and adores. He's given back. He asks nothing in return. This is the type of guy I believe, and from what I'm told, he is. And so, well done to Tom Fath. But eventually, Steve, he's going to have to say, I've done all I can. I can't do anymore. It's time to look at another possible scenario, maybe a new team in a Canadian league. Your thoughts?
He's still very anti-Canadian league. Every time I talk to him, Tom is, we have to remember, is very solidly invested in NASL. He owns quite a bit of the league. So this is, that's part of it. He's not just a member, he's a shareholder in the league. That gives him a strong vested interest in the future of NASL. Tom Fath as well, I think you have to look at his age. I don't think, that his position, that he's, really ready to jump in and maybe start another league or to be in the ground floor. And as well, Tom is fiercely independent. He believes strongly in an independent model. He hasn't liked USL in the past when people were saying, could FC Edmonton ever go USL? No, he's not big on that, simply because he's an independent owner guy. And I don't think parts of the business plan in Canadian Premier League, which have, hints of how MLS has some controls and some cooperations, strike him. He wants a league to be independent owners all forging their own destinies. And so that's, how strongly he feels. Now, if it came for one team, I don't think a business plan is going to change to bring FC Edmonton in. Mind you, I'd be the first to say if FC Edmonton, I think, went to the Canadian Premier League, they'd have such a massive advantage over every other team in the league based on the academy's existence, for years, and the quality of players that they have in the roster, that, I think that if FC Edmonton started off and moved to the Canadian Premier League, they'd be the hands-down favorite to win it probably the first 2 years.
Wow, easy, Steve, easy. I wouldn't go that far. I'd make them the most established franchise if they are entering into the new CPL. But a hands-down winner, no. We got to wait to see how all the other
We'll
teams...
agree to disagree on that. I think that when they're... I think that based on the teams established the players that they have, and if they could bring some of those over, they would have a market advantage on everyone else.
Well,
because they had that head start.
Yeah, there I agree with you 100%. Steve, just before we let you go, quickly, give us another name or two. I'm going to try and get on Jeff Paulus. He joined us before the Christmas break. I'm going to try and get on Colin Miller as well. But give us another name or two from the FC Edmonton system there that we need to watch out for maybe in 2018 of another type of player like this that could go as a Generation Adidas player.
Well, the guy that actually isn't with FC Edmonton anymore, but is an FC Edmonton product, is a guy who was with Mark Dos Santos last year at Swope Park Rangers and ended up being on the USL All-Star team. A guy that got a scholarship to American University out of FC Edmonton Academy, Amir Didic.
Oh, yeah, yes. He won.
And he's an Edmonton kid who came up through the academy, and he went the NCAA route. And now everyone's raving about him. I talked with Mark, and Mark said there's a kid that's just such an awesome student of the game. I wouldn't be surprised to see him, eventually end up with Mark Dos Santos again somewhere, maybe in San Francisco or something like that. But, I just want to say to the listeners out there that what's incredible about Edmonton, when you see players like Alphonso Davies or to St. Ricketts, and now Shamit Shome in MLS, more than a lot of other Canadian cities have produced, more than, you're certainly in a city that probably has a better youth system than Vancouver, that has wonderful weather. Edmonton has the worst weather, has no indoor bubble. Like, we play indoor soccer with the boards in the winter. There is no indoor facility in the city. Yet somehow, this city is producing top-flight talent and has a strong academy. I think it speaks volumes to what FC Edmonton has done, but I think as well to the soccer community for such a short season to produce players like this city is. It really is something else, and it's really a credit to a lot of the people in the Edmonton soccer community who've hung on to work with players in really actually some of the poorest conditions to bring up players in any Canadian city.
Well said, and I'm glad you said that because a lot of times we forget the rich history that Edmonton has, not just in filling Commonwealth Stadium for Canadian games and other World Cup games and what have you, but they have a history and they've developed players, and we know that going back to the old CSL days, the old NASL days in the Brickman, on and on. So I'm glad you brought that up, Steve, because there's a lot of people that should take a bow and know that their work has been noticed. Steve, great having you on. Keep up the great work out there in Alberta, and hopefully we can continue to see more and more names coming out of the Alberta Soccer Association and FC Edmonton in MLS in 2018 again. Thanks again, Steve, and we'll get you on in the next few weeks again, my friend.
All right, thanks a lot.